What's up YouTube and Unreal developers? In this video I'm going to be showing you how to make a virtual keyboard in Unreal Engine, either for using with a gamepad or for showing input indicators to your players, whatever you want to do with it really. This is going to be more oriented towards the actual input side of things. So first off, to get two things out of the way, please do like, share, and subscribe if you find this video helpful. It will help me out a lot with continuing to make videos like this. Secondly, I do have to do a shameless self-plug of my own products that I have in an Unreal Marketplace. So this is animated keyboard and mouse input indicator. So yeah, this is kind of a multi-purpose tool. You can either show your inputs on the keyboard, or you can actually click the buttons or hit these with a gamepad to input characters. And then of course you could just grab this text from wherever to do whatever you need with it. So that's product one. It's more oriented towards actually showing the inputs that your players are using, or showing the indications of what they need to be hitting. This is actually the first tool I made right here for a virtual keyboard, and this one is much more directly oriented towards using with a gamepad. So I'll use my gamepad here, and you can see I can easily input some text. I can go over here and hit caps lock, input some caps, I can input spaces, delete, etc., etc. And then there's some, nice keyboard button shortcuts over there if I want to clear them all out, etc. And when I'm done, it'll all be reflected in that text box. I can also get to it with this button right here, which can be easily hidden if you don't want to use it. But it's just another way to get into this keyboard. So that's product number two. Product number three. The only reason this one exists is because I actually made this virtual keyboard for gamepad V1 right here. I made that for a game I was developing, so I didn't really have any reason to make that other than a game that I was developing. I just made it kind of versatile so that I could put on the marketplace. This one, on the other hand, this only exists to work with earlier engine versions. But that being said, it does have a sound in there for when you're hitting the keys, and there's also a few different fonts you can choose from if you want to use different fonts. So if you're using like Unreal 4.27 or something like that, this is the one to go to. This is this is virtual keyboard for gamepad V2. But if you're using 5 or up, you can just use virtual keyboard for gamepad. Anyway, with the shameless self-plugs out of the way, let's get into the actual tutorial here. So I've already got a map here. This is just a completely blank map. So, very first thing we need, of course, is a container for all of our keys. We need something to group all of our keys together, and also we'll put a text up here so we can reflect the input and show how you might use this. I'm just going to call this virtual keyboard 2 because I already have a virtual keyboard in this project from the products I just showed you. So let's go ahead and bring in our canvas panel, since they don't come by default with Unreal Engine 5 and up. And just to make sure we're going to be displaying everything as we're wanting to, let's go ahead and drop that in there. Just a simple image. And in our level blueprint, let's create a widget. Virtual keyboard 2. Add to viewport. Now let's get our player controller. And we're going to show the mouse cursor. Alright, good deal. So, let's actually keep this image here, but let's just change the anchors. So this is going to take up the whole screen, so that'll be kind of our background for it. Make this a nice kind of deep purple, I guess. Reduce the opacity a little bit. That should look nice. Okay, so next up, let's go ahead and bring in a vertical box here. We're going to anchor this once again to the entire screen, but this time let's get it a nice offset of about 64 pixels all around. Now let's bring in a text. This is just going to reflect our input, so if you don't want to directly reflect the input on the keyboard itself, you don't have to put this here. You really just need a text variable, but for the sake of this tutorial, let's put it in there. We'll center that horizontally. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. We're going to add a little bit of letter spacing, and I like to give all my text a nice outline. Just makes it a little bit more visible in my opinion. Okay, good deal. Now, we can go ahead and clear out that text. Okay, so in this vertical box here, let's go ahead and bring in a horizontal box, and we're going to fill this horizontal box up with some keys, and then we're going to add another horizontal box, and that'll be each of your rows of keys. So we need one more widget blueprint to make this work. It's going to be a widget blueprint virtual key. But before you actually start working on this virtual key right here, we also need an enum. This isn't strictly speaking necessary, but it'll help you out a little bit down the road if you want to say, like, conditionally show different sets of keys, or you know, do different actions on certain keys, whatever, etc. So let's just have letter, number, special character, and then just so we can actually still use this blueprint for our return and our escape, let's have a delete key, and we'll have a done key. Let's see, we also need shift. Let's have a shift key so we can get to special characters and like capitalize and stuff. Alright, so that should be good for now. If we need to add anything later, we can always do that. Let's see, actually open up the virtual key now. So let's go ahead and make this just the desired size. We're going to make this, let's see, actually, how do we want to do this? Let's contain this in a size box. So this will let us make sure the size is consistent, how we want it to be with each key, and I'll show you how we can make sure the text always takes up the entire space as well. So for now we'll say 64 and 64. Within this size box, we're going to have a button. This button is going to have some text. This text will need to be wrapped up in a scale box, and that'll make sure it always takes up the right amount. And actually, let's leave this centered, but we're going to make the scale box feel. Sorry about that. And we don't need any padding on this scale box. So let's see how that works here. So if you set it to just one character, it's going to take up a lot more space. So that looks quite nice. I always like to add an outline, like I said, to my text. So we'll add a 1 point outline there, and that should help out a little bit. Okay, so looking good here. We have a button with some text that's always going to take up the maximum space. Now then, let's make this size box here a variable, and this way we can update the width and height on the pre-construct, and that way you'll be able to see that whenever you're working and adding these buttons into the virtual keyboard. So get a reference to that. We're going to set the width override, and we're going to set the height override. Okay, now we're going to make a vector 2D. So we'll just say this is called size box size, and this is going to be a vector 2D. And let's expose this, pull that out, And again, let's just go ahead and set this to a default of 64 and 64. And plug those in there. Alright. Now we also need to add in that key type. This was the enum. Again, make sure this is exposed. And by default, we'll just say it's a letter. That's fine. No problem at all. Let's see. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually, before we drag that in, we're going to have this display text here. And let's see, by default, that won't actually have any text. That way you won't forget to ever fill it in. There's a few ways we could do this here. We could make a binding, but again, if you make a binding, it's not going to reflect until you actually hit play or actually build this. So instead of that, let's make this text a variable. We'll call it key text. We're going to get that display text. We're going to get that key text, and we're going to set the text in the pre-construct to the display text. And again, for we should expose this and make it instance editable. Alright, now we can see this in action a little bit, or at least start to see our layout come together. Okay, I think I accidentally called that virtual key, and I already have a virtual key, so this might be a little bit confusing, but we'll figure out which one is correct real quick. So let's drag this into our horizontal box here. Okay, so this is the right one. This is the one that I just made. Good deal. Okay, so as you can see, currently has no text in there. We'll say this is going to be letter Q. Boom, pops up. You can see it nice and easy. And we can adjust the size. It's all going to be nice and consistent no matter how much text we put in there. Actually, one thing, let's go ahead and fix this real quick. Let's make this text auto wrap, and that way we can do stuff like this. We're going to say put a space in there, and boom, it's going to auto wrap those words. So that looks quite nice, right? Okay, but anyway, you get the idea. So actually, I'm gonna make this one, and I'm gonna go ahead and fill in all these real quick, and I'll just fast forward this, but you guys get the idea. You're gonna fill these in, and you're gonna set what it is, and I'll see you in just a second when I get done with this. Okay, now that we have a basic button layout made, and of course you can adapt this however you want, add in whatever buttons you want, reduce it however you like. This is just to show you how to make a virtual keyboard, not to completely make some stylized thing, you know, in a specific way. So, first off, one thing we can go ahead and actually do, let's go ahead and wrap this up with a scale box. I'll show you what happens if you don't wrap it with a scale box. Since we're using a size box, my computer's taking a second here. 1 second. There we go. Since we're not using, since we're using a size box, they're always going to be consistently sized. So now we want to wrap this vertical box that's containing everything with a scale box. And now you can see everything looks quite nicely centered in the screen, and everything looks great. So now that we have all that, we have our text here for our just showing our inputs. Let's go ahead and make this the keyboard text, whatever, and make that a variable. Actually, I guess I didn't really need to make that a variable. What we do need to do though is add another keyboard text value that's going to be a text. And it's just going to start out completely blank, and then we're going to bind it to that value. So let's actually go ahead and blank this out. find that value. And now we are ready to actually start adding some functionality to our keys. So that's the fun part, right? Super easy to actually get started with this. So our button here, grab your button 48, whatever number it became for you if there is a number. And on clicked, we're going to do some function, right? And we're going to decide that function based on the key type. So let's go ahead and get our key type here, and we're going to switch on this. Now, one thing we also need to do is we need to know, at least for the purpose of this tutorial, we need to be able to know what keyboard to change that text for. So depending on your implementation or what you're trying to do, you may not even need this, but for now, we're going to add this. It's going to be our keyboard reference, virtual keyboard 2. There we go. So get a reference to that. And what I'm actually going to do is in the construct of this, I will get all widgets of class virtual key. It was really a mistake to call that the same thing. I meant to call that virtual key 2, but whatever, we'll figure it out, right? First off, make sure to go ahead and unclick that top level only, so we'll grab all of them. And we're going to set that keyboard ref, get a reference to self, plug in our loop body pen, and now each of those should have the virtual keyboard associated with it that we're going to be using for this demonstration. Now, let's go ahead and if this is valid, so we can just do a validated get here. This is something I learned recently. So do a validated get. We'll just test this out with the letters first to make sure everything's going to work. And then we're going to set the keyboard text value. And of course we could also just put this function on the keyboard itself. It'd probably be a little bit cleaner, but just to do this nice and quick and show you how it's done, we can also just get the keyboard text value. A lot of ways you could do this, but this is fine for the tutorial anyway. So let's actually go ahead and actually I don't know what we can do here. This is one way we can do this. You could convert this to a string and do it that way, but this is another way. So the original will be the original text from the keyboard that is bound to that text widget, and then the added text, of course, if this is a letter, then we're just going to get the display text for this key, and then we're going to set that, and that binding should take care of everything for us. So let's test this out real quick. Boom, easy as that. Now we have input, and of course we can actually do the same thing for the numbers here. We can do the same thing for the special characters, and then for the delete, then we would actually just I guess for the delete we probably would need to actually convert this to a string. So there's no way to obviously interpolate a reduction as far as I'm aware, but yeah, you kind of get the idea. So we can, for our delete key, we're going to get that keyboard text value again. And this time we just need to convert it to a string. We're going to say shop. I never can remember, I always get this a little confused. We'll figure it out. And then we're going to set that keyboard text value. It's alright, that's a little ugly to read there, but you get the idea. Alright, let's see if that works. It may be the other way around. I always get this a little bit confused. Let's try hello. Okay, so Sorry, I always get that confused. Not right chop, do a left chop. Oh, sorry. Make sure you actually chop something, so change the count to 1. Boom. Now we can delete our text there. So yeah, I think you probably get the general idea now. Of course, like I said, there's a lot more you can do with this. For example, the shift key, of course we didn't hook that up. You can easily just change the display text, or set the text to key text to toggle between lowercase and uppercase. You can add in obviously the functionality for the space bar. There's a lot you can do here, but that's the general idea. That's how you can get this to lay out nicely with the size boxes and the scale boxes, and that's how you can connect the functionality. And of course, using this in practice, you could just grab the text from the keyboard, whether or not you use that actual text element up here to display the input. You can always just grab the text variable. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Thanks a lot. Please do like, share, and subscribe. Again, if you found this helpful, it will help me out a lot. And if all this seems like too tedious for you, again, please do check the description. I've got 3 products that might help you out to save you a lot of time. Thanks, and have a great day.